Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, mystical beings and beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And just as a reminder, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and share this with everybody you know so they can get this incredible wisdom and information and whatever will help people transform their lives from the inside out. They can't get that if you are not someone who doesn't share it. So thank you in advance for sharing. I want to dive in to the topic of this episode, which is awake doesn't mean conscious. So let's elevate to a level of the way of wisdom here. When we first start to quote unquote wake up, and I know people listening to this, you already have gone through that experience, everybody to varying degrees so far, right? Which is unique to you and perfect wherever you're at. Everybody's going to be in different grades and different levels. We should understand that by now. If you've listened to me for more than just this episode, you understand that by now. But awake doesn't mean conscious. This is really important for us to understand this. So first of all, when you first start to wake up, what does that mean? You start to realize you're not just a human. You're this divine soul having a human experience, right? You start to question, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Is there life after death? You know, all the little ways that we start to get curious about what we really are. Our infinite being, our soul self is coming online a little bit more. We also begin to wake up to all of the crazy, all of the brainwashing, the way that we are conditioned, the way that we are enslaved, what's really going on in the world with elites, with our governments, with people who are in control of us, so to speak. And that part of quote unquote awakening, that is waking up to the truth of what is really going on. That doesn't mean you are at a higher level of consciousness in order to process and deal with the truth. That right there is key. So awakening is waking up to the truth of things, some of which, oh my God, I'm this divine. The truth of what I am is this divine being. I'm a soul having a human experience. Oh, I have extrasensory abilities and I have different things that I can tap into or I can expand into. All of these really fun, blissful, wondrous things. Oh, I'm a co-creator of my reality. All of the fun, wonderful, joyous, blissful, exciting stuff, of course, is there and true. And also, awakening means the horrifying stuff is there. The truth about human enslavement and why media is put in front of you to scare you and always trigger fear and always trigger hate for other people and fighting one another and never functioning in unity with other people, but opposing polarization, duality, all of those things, and just how severely and it's such a sociopathic level that we are brainwashed and controlled that, you know, things like pandemics, and then you're brainwashed in what you should or should not do, how you behave, whether places of business can be open or not be open, all of those lovely things that you just abide by and you are controlled and quote unquote forced to do and behave and make choices for your own body in a certain way. All of those things start to come online and much more extreme, horrific things that I won't even mention or allude to here. And some of you who already know what those are, where your mind is going, the most extreme, psychotic, crazy, horrific, like you can only see in a movie kind of stuff. Yep, we're on the same page. I don't have to say it out loud here. We are on the same page. Yes, those things. Okay. So all the scary, horrific, terrifying things, when we begin to wake up, so to speak, we start to realize the depths of darkness and evil and corruption and things on this planet that are controlling people, decision makers and leaders and stuff like that. So that's part of what it means to awaken, to wake up to that, which is the truth. However, that truth can be absolutely terrifying, can it? That truth can be so, it can break your mind. Let's just go right there. It can fucking break you mentally to realize the truth of what's really going on behind the scenes, the puppeteers pulling the puppet strings and you're the puppets, right? Like that can be extraordinarily terrifying. Now, here's where I want you to see the difference, because language is extremely limiting. We do not have enough words and enough language in the English language, in any language, in order to describe all the levels of things. I do believe our language will evolve as we evolve. More words and more ways to use language will evolve over time. For now, open your hearts and try to listen energetically with your hearts so that you can gain the divine message and teachings that I'm offering with this. Okay. So make sure your hearts are open so that you don't misinterpret. That's what you should do 100% of the time, by the way, no matter who you listen to. Open your heart. The more open you are in your heart-centered being, your soul self coming online, the more you can discern truth and crap from, the false light people and fake prophet people, from people that are truly divine and offering you ways to help you elevate for real. So open your heart to everything. Even if you can't comprehend or understand something at some time, if you're open in your heart, the energy will go in, the truth will go in on an energetic level. And at some point you'll hear it again, or it'll dawn on you later and you'll get it later, or you'll hear something similar from someone else. Boom, there it is. You'll get it. That's how you should learn how to listen to things. Open your heart, open your heart. Listen with divine ears, not your egoic self. Now that you have that established, let's talk about awake versus conscious. So you're waking up, but you're waking up to a lot of the stuff that's really horrifying and scary and terrifying and evil and awful. And that alone can cause a mental breakdown for somebody, truly. Can cause you to go into despair, hopelessness, fear, anxiety, depression, hard to get out of bed. How the hell can I deal with life when this is the truth of what I'm facing? And holy shit, like WTF. WTF is this? And why are we really here? What the fuck? Okay. So you wake up to that. Here's what's critical is for you to become conscious. Because here's the truth. Just because you're waking up to the truth, to the horrors of what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on in certain parts of the world and what's going on, again, I'm going to be vague when it comes to that, because it's not going to help you or anybody else if this gets taken down, right? So bear with me. Those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, guess what? Hang in here till the end. It's okay. It's okay if you don't know specifically what I'm alluding to. You don't have to. You don't have to. And this isn't about burying your head in the sand. It isn't about spiritual bypassing. Just hang with me to the end of this episode. Okay? You'll understand why in a minute. To become conscious is the most critical thing versus waking up. Now, you can't become highly conscious without also waking up to the truth of things. They are not one and the same. They are very correlated. There's a correlation there. This is what I want you to understand. But you can start to wake up to the horrifying truth of things, and then your mind breaks. You have a mental breakdown because this is scary and this is what the fuck, okay? However, if you're conscious being, which means you are healing, you're healing your own traumas, you are healing your own programming, you are becoming more divinely powerful. That's on an energetic frequency. You are learning what it means to connect to your soul on an energetic level and you are elevating to become the frequencies of the 20 universal ways of oneness, for example. You become the ways of oneness consciousness. You become an initiate of oneness consciousness. That means you elevate higher and higher. You become the beingness of pure divinity as the way of purity. You become the wisdom that you are seeking as the way of wisdom, for example. You become a harmonizer when you can become so elevated that you become the way of harmony. The way of harmony includes the vibrational frequencies of all 20 universal ways of oneness. If you haven't yet read that book, go get it on Amazon, The 20 Universal Ways of Oneness. Read, study, integrate, become. And don't go buy it and read it and fill your head with a bunch of knowledge. That's not what it's for. Begin the journey, become an initiate of oneness consciousness, become the ways. Okay, really become it. Do what it takes to become it. Take whatever class you need to take at Masters of Self University. Get the coaching. Do whatever it takes to become an extremely highly conscious being. Why? Highly conscious beings, people who are the initiates of oneness consciousness, people who are literally physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually becoming enlightened, more of the light, are powerful enough to alchemize fear, worry, depression, anxiety, fear of the horrors and the terrifying things that are also true on our planet. Nothing can hurt you and harm you when you become a powerful, energetic being of the light. You are an infinite being. That means you are a timeless being. The essence of what you are in your divinity is you cannot die, you cannot be harmed ultimately. And even in human form, if there's dark, evil energies trying to brainwash you, trying to control you, trying to create fear, they can't do that to you if you become highly conscious. Just waking up to the truth can knock people actually into unconsciousness, just in a different way. That's your pseudo spiritualism. That's your spiritual matrix. People are terrified of what they're waking up to, and then they start going down these paths of spiritual bypassing. Love and light only. Love and light only. You are so easily brainwashed when you believe that fucking shit. When you are so powerless, you can't feel pain and alchemize the emotional pain that you're moving through. You can't alchemize fear. You drown it out with the orgies and the unconsciousness that you pretend is waking up. You pretend is conscious. You pretend because it's spiritual. It must mean it's divine. Just because it's spiritual doesn't mean it's divine. Doesn't mean it's the way of purity. It doesn't mean there's wisdom there. Usually ignorance and stupidity are filled in spiritual communities and tribes. Okay, so waking up and seeing truth doesn't mean you're conscious enough, which means divinely, energetically powerful enough to alchemize and handle and move through as a true mystical warrior what you need to move through to alchemize the darkness and the evil on this planet. Initiates of oneness consciousness, you don't run. You're not scared of darkness, of evil. You don't run from it. You don't hide. You don't spiritually bypass. You don't pretend like it doesn't exist. What you do is focus on your own light, becoming way more powerful so that you can alchemize the dark shit on this planet simply by you being alive on this planet in this time right now. You can heal the planet. You can help heal humanity by becoming more highly conscious. More highly conscious doesn't mean you gain a bunch of spiritual fucking knowledge and you're just awakened to the evils of the world, what's going on, all the dark side of the world. Being awake to that can scare the shit out of some people and actually cause a lot more damage. It can be very traumatizing to wake up to that. Do not misunderstand. do not misunderstand. For those of you who your soul's purpose is to bring awareness to all the crazy beings, all the people in high positions of power, and all the corruption and all the horrible, sex trafficking and all the whatevers are going on. There are people who their soul's purpose is to bring that to the surface, is to expose all of that stuff, to expose what goes on in certain industries, and how dark and dysfunctional and unhealthy it is and all of that. People have a soul mission. So there are a lot of people that their soul mission is to expose that stuff, to wake people up to the truth of what's really going on behind the scenes, so to speak, right? Okay. And your mission is really important, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for your beautiful service first, before I continue. For all of you doing that, boots on the ground, exposing darkness. Thank you to the human you, and thank you to your soul self for exposing all of these things and bringing these things to the light, to people's awareness. It is it's the way of selfless service, one of the universal ways of oneness. That is one aspect of the way of truth, of the way of selfless service, and in the way of honoring. I thank you for your soul choosing such a challenging mission. I mean that from the bottom of my heart and from the depths of my soul. I mean that for all of you out there doing that kind of work. It is not easy work. And as challenging as it is, keep going. Don't stop. Keep doing what you're here to do. Now, I hate to say the downside of that, because we want all of that to come to the surface. So I don't mean it in a negative way, and I don't mean that people shouldn't be doing it. So please do not misunderstand that. I thank everybody whose mission is to expose this stuff. Keep going, keep doing it. You're doing a great job. We want to keep going, okay? We want to keep exposing everything, bring light to everything. The challenge with that is people who are not conscious enough when they see that stuff. Often their unconscious programming, their low consciousness gets triggered into a lot of dark negative things. And some of those things triggers people into fear, anxiety, depression, panic. And they're actually more susceptible to brainwashing at that point, to being lured into places that are of false light. For example, a lot of spiritual communities where they want to go there to be healed because they're so scared of what's going on in the world when they're waking up. So waking up doesn't mean you're conscious, highly conscious enough to actually alchemize and powerfully move through what you need to move through on an energetic basis to face the truth of what's going on in this world. Does that make sense? And so what's really critical is no matter what people are waking up to, the number one most important thing is you are actually healing, elevating, becoming a being that is in oneness, in union with. You are the beingness of oneness consciousness. You are not the beingness of oneness consciousness because you talk about oneness consciousness and because you say so, or because you post it on social media. All that superficial bullshit has to go. You have to become it for real. Okay? You have to become it for real. And to become a being of oneness consciousness for real means you have to be educated through the way of wisdom. You have to be willing to allow yourself to be educated and not just go down a path of woo-woo, love and light, love my brother and sister crap. Because if you do that, you are not powerful enough to handle the negative shit when you're faced with it. You need to be powerful enough to handle negative, scary shit when you are faced with it. Because at some point, in your life, you're going to be faced with it in some way or another. There's no way to avoid it. Temporarily, you may be able to. So to become highly conscious means you're willing to look at the darkness within yourself and what that looks like and what that means. That is the first universal way of oneness, the way of responsibility. Okay, you become the ways, not just talk about being one with all and, oh, I'm an aspect of God and all the shit we love to say to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. That's not what this work is. That is not what I teach as a spiritual teacher, as a teacher of oneness consciousness. I don't give two shits what you try to post about yourself to make yourself look good or feel better about yourself or to get whatever fucking followers you want. You have to become it for real. And becoming a being of oneness consciousness means you have to be willing to look in the mirror and understand every damn way that you promote and you are thinking from, manifesting from, creating relationships from separation consciousness. And here is the truth in the way of truth, one of the ways of oneness, way of oneness number 4, in the way of truth, you 100% most of the time, some of you all of the time, no matter how spiritual and loving you try to be, you are promoting and coming from separation consciousness. That's not a judgment. That is never a judgment. And that's never I'm superior and you're inferior. Don't ever fucking interpret my shit that way. That's your wound. Those are your programs. If you actually think that's where I am coming from, I don't come from those energies. That's your misinterpretation if you think I am. I'm telling you that so that you can wake up to it. Hello, every being on this planet has come from separation consciousness and still do for the most part. As you evolve, you start to see all the programs of separation that you stem from, that you believe. Your thoughts are created from, your emotions are created from separation consciousness. Your manifestations in life, are manifested from separation consciousness because that's all we've ever been conditioned to be for the last 10,000 years, you guys. Of course, that's the truth. Of course, that's where we're manifesting from, believing from, thinking from. Do you understand that? It's no different than the stories you hear about, an eagle egg being hatched by, chickens. You ever hear stories like this? Little parables, little children's stories that have like these big, beautiful lessons in them. It's like an eagle's egg is hatched, gets mixed in with a bunch of chickens, and then the egg gets hatched, and then this big, majestic, powerful eagle who can fly a million freaking miles up in the air, right? Doesn't know that it's an eagle. It thinks it's a chicken. And although it's loved and has this chicken family, it's like it doesn't understand that it is something not superior, but something greater than or something more than the chicken until it finally realizes it's different, that it can fly and that it's supposed to soar in the sky and take flight and be an eagle, right? Until one day it realizes and then it becomes an eagle. Sorry, I'm not beautifully telling a story because I want to save time and look it up. If you want to hear that beautiful story, go look it up. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Read it to your children, those of you who are parents. But here's the point. It's like I want you all to connect to your power for real, like for real. Okay. I would wave a magic wand if I could, and everybody would realize what they are. Not on an intellectual level. Fuck your intellectualization bullshit. Fuck how intelligent you think you are. Fuck all the knowledge you want to accumulate and spew out and regurgitate to make yourselves look smart in front of everybody else. None of that means anything. What I want for you, part of my soul's mission, is to awaken you into the becoming of, for you to become the beingness of oneness consciousness for real. And with that, we have to be willing to learn where we're not that. The areas in our lives, the areas where we show up in our relationships, where we are not that. We are coming from separation consciousness and we didn't realize it before. It's stop telling yourself you're so spiritual and you're so special and you're so amazing and you're so great. And instead, be divine. Divinity comes from the truth. Divinity comes from the truth of, okay, so I'm here on this planet at this time, which means I've totally fucking come from separation consciousness. So, in the way of responsibility, it is my responsibility to find every goddamn way that I promote and believe and act out and continue to manifest and create separation consciousness on this planet. My responsibility, if I'm an initiate of oneness consciousness, is to step on that path for real and say, it is my responsibility to find every way that I come from separation, that I lack divinity. I have to be willing to see the areas where I am lacking divinity, because if I lack divinity in this one area, I might not be doing it on purpose. I don't care what your fucking intentions are. Stop it with that bullshit. That's how you have been brainwashed and conditioned to avoid becoming the way of responsibility and every other damn way, the way of integrity. It's not set your intent. Well, what's your intention? Like, that fucking matters. Let me give you an example. I had a client just this morning who just so much love and compassion for this person, for all my clients, so much love and compassion for this person. And one of the things that he said to me was, so I pointed out, okay, so let's see what we're really doing here. Let's see what program we're really running. And it was a pretty awful one. Okay. Pretty negative, pretty fucking awful that this person is showing up in that way. And one of the responses was like, but I don't ever intend to cause that kind of harm. I'm not going to be specific, so forgive me, out of honoring of this person. But the response basically was, but I don't ever have an intention. I don't seek out to harm. And I said, oh, it's like, oh you're perfect. Stay right there. Pause. Stay with that for a moment. Because that's how we avoid looking at ourselves. But I don't intend to do that. I'm like, you don't ever have to say that to me. I can see the truth of everything energetically. I would know if you intended to do it. I'd fucking call you out on that shit. I know you don't intend to do it. So I asked a question to this person. And I said, so the mom wound that you have, let me ask you, and I want you to answer. This is serious. I want you to answer seriously. The mom wound that you have, do you think your mom set the intention to have children in order to abuse them? Yes or no? He's like, no. To be violent towards them? No. To psychologically cause tremendous damage? No. But did she abuse you? Yes. Did she cause psychological damage? Yeah. Did she cause harm to you? Yes. Well, that's funny. She didn't have the intention, and he got it. He saw it. I said, I don't give a fuck about your goddamn intentions. That's part of spiritual fucking brainwashing in the spiritual matrix, that your intentions fucking matter. Knock it off. Because you create harm by default, because you're like, well, I don't intend. My intention is something different. How are you actually showing up in this world is all that matters. You see it, listeners? Do you see it? He saw it. And because he saw it, he was like, oh my God. And what I am doing, that's fucking awful. Yeah, it is, isn't it? There was an epiphany. There was a breakthrough to be able to say, okay, so now instead of avoiding, let's go back to those ugly fucking programs that you so masterfully avoided, not intentionally, and yet you avoided. See how our intentions get rid of that shit. I didn't mean to avoid, because he didn't. He wasn't being manipulative. He didn't mean to avoid. Do you see? Are you following? I hope you're following me, listeners. This is what I want you to wake up to. That just because you're aware of a lot of things that are going on in the world does not mean you're highly conscious enough to make transformation and real change on this planet. I hope you get by now. I am never fucking putting you down or criticizing you or judging you in any way. I hope you're starting to actually hear me with divine ears. I am trying to wake you up for real. You cannot be a truly, fully, highly conscious, awakening being if you have no fucking clue how you yourself continue to cause harm on this planet. You see it? That's why it's so critical to do the work that we offer at Masters of Self University. It just shows, oh my God, I'm creating separation consciousness there. Holy shit, I never intended to cause harm there. Of course you didn't. And yet you are. That's what we wake up to. That's the real work. That's the real work. That's where you start to have these magical, mystical, miraculous experiences, and you don't need fucking plant medicine to activate that inside of you. God damn it. You are the miracle you're seeking, but you cannot experience the magical, mystical miracle that you are when you have all of this darkness that you refuse to look at inside of yourself by focusing on what your intentions are, and I'm love and light only and all that bullshit. That is part of the brainwashing of the spiritual matrix, which is nothing but an extension of the third dimensional matrix that you think you've awakened out of. It isn't good enough to be awake and just try to wake people up to truth when they are not powerful enough to handle truth. That is irresponsibility. That is not the way of oneness, of the way of responsibility. The way of responsibility isn't to throw horrific, horrifying, scary things in front of everybody's face and let them fucking deal with it. They will be traumatized and end up making this planet darker than anything. They're not divinely powerful enough and awakened, conscious enough in order to handle and alchemize the truth, the terrifying things. That's what I want you to get. Your responsibility in waking people up to the truth of what's going on in this planet so we can transform it and elevate out of it is to connect them to their divinity. And if you don't know how to do that, because not everybody's purpose is that, you send them to the people who know how to do it. That is part of the way of responsibility. Hey, my soul's mission is to wake you the fuck up. I'm not one here to help you how to heal and how to become more conscious, but that person over there is. So here's my recommendations. Go listen to them, get their coaching, get their healing, get their books, whatever. That is part of what it means to be the way of responsibility, the first way of oneness. There are 20 of them, and the majority of us can't even function and achieve the way of oneness number 1 yet. This is what I want you to wake up to. We are here in this together. And together, as we unite and become one, we elevate and rise above all the evil and the darkness, which means rising above it isn't avoiding it. It's becoming so goddamn powerful in our light that we simply transform all the darkness on this planet together as one. That is what I am trying to create. That is what I am teaching. And I hope you join me on that mission. Give us a like. Make sure you subscribe. Share this with everybody you know. Go visit mastersofselfuniversity.com to see what kind of classes, courses, coaching you can receive to become this mystical warrior that I know you probably are. If you're listening to me, you probably are one. Sending all the love in the universe, which is the love that you really are. That's the truth of what you are. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next podcast.